that really wasn't me. Something else came over me. But I want you to understand that it is you, that shadow part of you is something that you have to acknowledge. It's a deep, deep part of you. It's the little child inside of you that is wanting to come out.
On the most elemental level, I try to tell people that you don't know who you are, okay? So you have to begin from this position of ignorance where you don't really know who you are. And if you begin from that position, then you can stop lying to yourself. But the thing to understand why you don't know who you are is you have all of these emotions that you feel, and we are an animal that's driven mostly by emotion. We think we're all intellectual, that we all think, and it's all our, our frontal cortex, our executive powers, but that's not it. We're driven by emotions that are much more powerful than our thinking. And you'll feel an emotion that comes from the body. It comes from hormones. It comes from electrical impulses, chemicals in your body that create a sensation that your mind then translates into an emotion: anger, love, jealousy, envy, depression, right? But you're not aware of where it actually originated from. You're attaching a word to it. You're attaching what you think it is, but you don't know where it came from, why you're feeling that way, why your body is responding that way. So you essentially don't understand your own emotions. Oftentimes, you get angry at something, and you think it's that person who triggered it, but it's something else. It's another person days earlier who set the seeds for it. It's your parents who created this pattern. You don't know who you are. You are a mystery to yourself. And because you don't know who you are, your opinion of who you are is basically based on illusions, right? You're not aware. So for instance, in the Laws of Human Nature, I have 18 chapters that are basically about a flaw in every human being: negative qualities, irrationality, narcissism, short-sightedness, envy, dark energy, grandiosity, aggression, you name it, right? You never admit that you have these qualities. It's always the other person. You don't say, gosh, I am a narcissist. I'm really self-absorbed. People very rarely ever do that. So you lie to yourself about, he or she's a narcissist. I care about other people. I'm very giving. I'm always interested in what they want. You're lying to yourself. Your first thought is about yourself and your own interests. And often your desire to please people and do what they want is to give yourself power. It's not out of love. It's not out of the desire to help other people. It's because you want something from them. You are self-absorbed. You are a narcissist. We are all self-absorbed. I am more than anyone. I can admit it. By admitting it, by saying, I can be very self-absorbed, you can now control it to some degree. You can understand that maybe it's not a good quality. Maybe if I understand that's happening, I can change the dynamic. I can become more empathetic. If you understand that you have an aggressive personality, well, then maybe you can start channeling it in ways that are more productive. But people go around in denial. They deny that they don't have any of these emotions. Well, the number one sign that someone's a narcissist is if they say, oh, no, I'm not a narcissist, which means they're separate, they're different from everybody else, which is a very narcissistic trait. The idea that you're always better than other people, you're superior, is a sure sign of narcissism. So by saying, oh, no, I'm not a narcissist, you're definitely unconsciously revealing the fact that you are a raging narcissist. And I've known many narcissists in my life. We all do, so I'm not special that way. And I noticed over the years that there is a kind of a facial quality to narcissists. It's hard to verbalize because it's more for me a feeling, but their eyes are a kind of a giveaway. So narcissists often give the impression that they're interested in you. They like you. They're listening to you, which you think is kind of a contradiction. That doesn't sound like a narcissist. But it's not the kind of attention where they're really interested in you. They're trying to get something from you. They're trying to get you to like them so that they can now use you, right? So the way I say it is there's a kind of a deadness in their eyes. They're looking at you, they're listening to you, but you can see they're not really connecting. The wheels are spinning inside their brain about what they can do with the information you're giving them. You can recognize that it's not lighting up. There's not a feeling of warmth or interest in their eyes, right? There's also certain facial qualities, and there's this kind of smile that is slightly demonic, where I can't really describe it, which is why I say some of it's hard to verbalize. But it doesn't feel like it's directed towards other people. So oftentimes when you smile and you laugh, it's a social thing, right? You're responding to other people. You can't really control it. Somebody tells a joke or you hear something and you're laughing, and there's kind of a communion going on between you. But the narcissist, they're just stuck inside themselves. There's kind of a demonic quality to when they laugh and to when they smile. When I wrote the chapter on narcissism, I was going, Jesus, I always thought that I wasn't like that, but I recognize those traits. Now, I control it. I was certainly more of a narcissist when I was younger, in my 20s. I think I had, I've always, I don't know, personally, I don't like talking too much about myself, but I've always been kind of a mix of things. So I'm very interested in other people, and I'm very interested in what they're feeling, and it's kind of, unfortunately, raised that way. But at the same time, I want attention, and I want more love. I want more attention from people. And so I have a self-absorbed quality. And it's only by recognizing it that I can make something out of it that's not so, to me, self-destructive, and handle it in a more rational manner. But definitely, that's the whole point of the laws of human nature and of what I say in podcasts. I don't want to set myself up as this superior person judging you and telling you, look, American people of the world, this is human nature and I'm God and I'm telling you how to. I have all of these traits as well, all of these qualities. That's why I understand them. But we all are flawed individuals. And you can't make yourself a better person. If you want to become a better person, which is what all the self-help books are, all the podcasting is about, you're not going to become a better person until you admit that you have flaws, that you can now look at them and then work on them. Too much awareness of your bad qualities can paralyze you, right? So, sometimes it's good to believe that you deserve good things in life, that you have skills, that you have promise, that there's hope for the future. It might be built on nothing. It might be totally unrealistic, but it's important to have those beliefs because they can give you energy, they can give you purpose, and they can give you meaning. If we understood everything about ourselves as an animal and our basic drives, we'd probably all kill ourselves, to be honest. So yeah, it's good to lie to some degree and to feel that you're worth something and that you have goals and that you can reach them. A lot of people, when they lose that, it's very sad, and they're too realistic. They go the opposite direction. So we either overvalue ourselves. God, I'm so good. I'm so brilliant. People love me. We overvalue ourselves, or we undervalue ourselves. I'm just a piece of shit. I'm not worth anything. I don't even deserve to be alive. That's equally wrong as well. It's not the truth. But so if you become too realistic, it can bring you down, and you won't you won't have the energy to accomplish anything. So you have to have some degree of self-love, which is the origin of narcissism. I say there's the healthy narcissist. The healthy narcissist does love themselves, is self-absorbed, but they're able to channel that love into art, into creating things, into a podcast, into a relationship. That's a healthy narcissist.
You have a dark side. You have qualities, little corners in your brain that you don't reveal to other people, and that carry something from your childhood, in fact. And you won't notice this, and you won't talk about it, and you won't think about it because it's painful. You have this idea that you're basically a very decent, wonderful, loving, warm person, that you're very smart and bright, that you control everything that you do, etc., etc., etc. You're deeply invested in your own opinion of yourself that's generally elevated from the reality, okay? And so the fact that you have a dark side, the fact that you have a shadow side, we say the word shadow because it's not illuminated, you're not seeing it. It's hard to see something that's in the darkness. I talk about how when you were a child, when you were 3, 4, or 5 years old, a lot of that dark energy that all human beings have, it comes from the time before we were socialized as humans, before as children where we acted out and did anything that we wanted to do. You were like a complete human being. You had all these range of emotions. Some of it would be aggressive. Some of it would be angry. Some of it would be envious towards your siblings. And you didn't have this little voice inside of your head saying, don't do that, that's bad, bad, bad. You did it, you acted out. You were kind of a complete human being. But of course, we can't act like that in school or in business or at the workplace. And so we're socialized and we learn to sort of tamp down those very basic primal human needs and desires that we all have. And what happens when you repress this dark energy, this aggressiveness, this ambition, this desire to get something from other people, perhaps to manipulate people, etc., is when you repress it deeply, deeply, deeply because you have to appear to be so nice and pleasant with everyone around you, what happens is it comes out in ways that you're not aware of, that you can't control. So think about it in relation to yourself in those moments where some kind of anger suddenly flared up. Somebody said something and it triggered you, and your reaction is a little bit stronger than you normally would expect, and you think, God, what did I do in that moment? Like you'll think like minutes later or the next day. You know, you have a bit of shame or you have a bit of regret, and you have this feeling that really wasn't me, something else came over me, right? But I want you to understand that it is you, that shadow part of you is something that you have to acknowledge. It's a deep, deep part of you. It's the little child inside of you that is wanting to come out, and you're pushing it down. And because you're pushing it down, it makes you do things that you maybe later regret, particularly when you act out against other people. So reflect on those moments and reflect on the problems that it caused you in life. The point of this is not to make you these conniving, manipulative, angry people acting out in the world. That's not going to help you at all. The value here is recognizing that you have this dark energy, that you have these impulses, sometimes to even hurt people, to manipulate people, to push people around to get what you want. Sometimes you don't like other people, but you have to be so pleasant in the office. You have to say, oh, you're wonderful. Oh, your screenplay was so great. And you feel, oh, I'm not being authentic, okay? So what you want to do in this process, it's called shadow work in psychology, is you want to look at it. You want to look at yourself in the mirror. You want to recognize that dark energy, okay? Yes, I am aggressive. Yes, I can get angry. Yes, I want to get what I want in life, and sometimes I'm not the nicest person about it. I have these desires. Yes, I feel envy. And admit that you have this energy.